Tonight, on First at 9 this Thursday the 26th of June 2025. Committed to rights. Sri Lanka shows a genuine interest in solving complex human rights issues. UN Human Rights High Commissioner affirms ending his 3-day visit to Sri Lanka. Calls for amendments to several laws in the future. Zero tolerance. Iran will respond immediately if Israel violates the ceasefire, warns Iranian ambassador to Sri Lanka. Clarifies that recent US strikes have not caused significant damage to the country's peaceful nuclear infrastructure. Double indictment. Former Minister Kehelia Rabukwala and 11 others indicted over the importation of substandard medicines. Kehelia and family indicted over the accumulation of illegal assets. Export growth. Sri Lankan exports record a 7.14% growth during the first 5 months of this year.
Cinec Campus Open Day. මේ මාස 3 වෙනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome. You're joining First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story this evening, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk, who concluded his visit to Sri Lanka today, said the country has demonstrated a genuine interest in addressing complex human rights issues. During a press briefing held earlier today, he emphasized the importance of continuing on this path to achieve tangible results in the future. The High Commissioner also called for several legal reforms in Sri Lanka, including the introduction of a moratorium on the use of the Prevention of Terrorism Act moving forward. Visiting United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk arrived in Trincomalee yesterday morning, where he met with civil society organizations and religious leaders from the eastern province. Upon arrival, he was met with a silent protest staged by several civil society groups and members of the Association of Families of the Missing, highlighting ongoing concerns about enforced disappearances. Later in the day, the High Commissioner travelled to Jaffna, where he participated in a commemoration ceremony held near the Chemmani mass grave. He also paid a visit to the historic Nallur Kandaswamy Kovil in Jaffna and later that evening held discussions with Tamil political representatives. Lanka Tamil Arusukatchi MP Shanakyan Rasamanikam emphasized during the meeting that the Tamil issue in Sri Lanka must not be overlooked despite the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. In response, High Commissioner Turk assured that his visit was aimed at ensuring continued attention and support for human rights concerns in Sri Lanka. This morning, Turk arrived in Kandy and paid homage to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth relic. He also met with the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Askeri chapters. In the afternoon, the High Commissioner held a meeting with leaders of the NPP at the JVP headquarters. Later in the day, he participated in a press conference in Colombo, where he addressed key human rights concerns and reiterated the UN's commitment to supporting justice, accountability and reconciliation in Sri Lanka.
Just over an hour ago, I met with the President, and earlier in my visit with the Prime Minister, as well as other ministers and political party leaders and parliamentarians from across the political spectrum. Our discussions showed a genuine openness to address complex issues. I am encouraged that there is a growing space for memorialization of victims. It is important to build on this momentum and to translate it into tangible results. Sri Lanka has struggled to move forward with domestic accountability mechanisms that are credible and have the trust and confidence of the victims. Achieving results in at least some long-standing and representative human rights cases would have a powerful, demonstrative and confidence-building effect. I also understand that a bill proposing decriminalization of same-sex relationships is before Parliament, and I hope it will be passed soon. I also call for the moratorium of the use of the Prevention of Terrorism Act and urge an expedited review and release of long-term PTA detainees and prisoners. Also, the Online Safety Act needs to be repealed. The Muslim Marriage and Divorce Act also needs to be amended.
Speaking in Colombo a couple of days ago, you said that the credibility of international law is being undermined. We see powerful states today openly backing Israel as it continues killing Palestinians. And in this context, how do you think your office office can engage with small states like Sri Lanka, which is apparently caught between domestic mechanisms that victims say are lacking in credibility and an international order that is evidently power-based and not rules-based and is unable to defend humanitarian norms?
International law means that there are rules that need to be respected by everyone, including by the powerful ones. And the beauty of the United Nations is that there is no such thing as a small state. And it is precisely because of international law and international regulations that we are able to cooperate with each other. And I fear in today's world, to be very honest, that the old habit of might is right comes back. And it's important that there is a new realization of the importance of multilateralism and the United Nations, and indeed small states really depend on it more than perhaps some of the powerful states, but also powerful states depend on it. They may not know it at a certain point in time, but of course they also depend on how to regulate international relations in an amicable way.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
යාඩියා ලොව වැඩියෙන්ම අලෙවි වන ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් ස්කූටරය අබාන්ස් ඔටෝ වෙතින්.
US President Donald Trump says he will seek a commitment from Iran to end its nuclear program. However, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in his first public comments since the ceasefire with Israel, warned against any further US attacks on Iran, saying Iran had delivered a slap to America's face with its strike on an American base in Qatar. US President Donald Trump said yesterday that he would likely seek a commitment from Iran to end its nuclear ambitions at talks next week and credited US strikes on Iran with bringing a swift end to the war between Israel and Iran. Trump said his decision to unleash huge bunker-busting bombs in Sunday's attack had devastated Iran's nuclear program and called the outcome a victory for everybody. His comments came off the back of an initial assessment by the US Defense Intelligence Agency that Iran's path to building a nuclear weapon may have been set back only by months, which the White House strongly denied. Yesterday, US Central Intelligence Agency Director John Ratcliffe said the US airstrikes had severely damaged Iran's nuclear program, but stopped short of declaring the program had been destroyed. Iranian authorities said 627 people, including 13 children, were killed and nearly 5,000 injured in Iran, where the extent of the damage could not be independently confirmed because of tight restrictions on media. 28 people were killed in Israel. Meanwhile, President Trump yesterday called on Israel to pardon Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu or cancel his corruption trial, saying the US would save him like it did his country. Netanyahu was indicted in 2019 on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust, all of which he denies. Meanwhile, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei broadcast a statement to the nation today, his first video message since US strikes and Iran's ceasefire with Israel. Khamenei said the US gained no achievements from this war, adding that Iran was able to emerge victorious and delivered a hard slap to America's face. He also stated that the US military action against Iran was never about nuclear issues or nuclear enrichment, but about surrender.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Apico Next Gen. Make the leap to faster sleep.
Iranian ambassador to Sri Lanka, Dr. Ali Reza Delhosh, asserts Iran will respond immediately if the ceasefire with Israel is violated. He added that trust in the Israeli regime is thin, even though Iran agreed to the ceasefire proposal. Addressing the media today, the ambassador claimed US strikes have not severely damaged Iran's nuclear infrastructure, despite US claims, and added that Iran's peaceful nuclear program cannot be destroyed through attacks on infrastructure, as nuclear technology is in the minds of the Iranian people. A press briefing was convened today at the residence of the Iranian ambassador regarding the current situation in Iran.
Condemning this brutal military aggression by the United States, Iran exercised its inherent right of self-defense and responded by striking back at the United States base in Qatar. Our intention was by no means to violate Qatar's sovereignty, and we have explained this to Doha. Our neighbors know well that we are not a people of war or aggression. Since we are not seeking tension or adventurism, we agreed to the ceasefire proposal made by Zionist regime. However, we have no trust in the regime and are ready to respond immediately if the ceasefire is violated.
The final question about closing the Strait of Hormuz?
Hormuz is part of Persian Gulf. We don't have any intention to close it because it is part of our responsibility to guarantee the peaceful area and stability of international transit through the Hormuz. But in any cases, if our national interest is violated fundamentally, we have all options on the table.
Agents report personally stated that the US strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities did not in fact destroy them. What is your comment on that?
Nuclear technology is not a building. Nuclear technology is in the mind of the people. Capability of Iranian peaceful nuclear activities is not just a building, but according to information that we have, there is no very big and serious damage as United States claim.
A bill to suspend cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and this comes under a backdrop where Iran has kept opening up its nuclear facilities for inspection and Israel has not. So what's the government's stance?
Yesterday, our parliament declared that until the situation of IAEA is in that manner, that instead of being a special agency for safeguarding of peaceful nuclear infrastructure, we cannot accept their agents to come to Iran. First, IAEA must clear its position about whether bombardment of peaceful nuclear infrastructure is allowed or not.
How will the Ministry of Foreign Affairs cope on this issue of this conflict?
We have gotten a very good welcoming from Ministry of Foreign Affairs about solving security problems of Sri Lankan nationals in Iran. We did good cooperation to transfer them to safe place in other countries and also temporarily transfer the embassy of Sri Lanka in Iran, safe cities in north part of Iran.
Meanwhile, the ambassador of Iran to Sri Lanka called on Foreign Minister Vijitha Herath to brief him on the latest situation in the region. Taking to X, Minister Herath said he welcomed the announcement of a ceasefire and underscored the importance of sustained diplomatic efforts to ensure peace and stability in the region. The Foreign Minister had also briefed the ambassador on the measures taken by the Sri Lankan government to ensure the safety of Sri Lankans residing in Iran in light of the current situation. Chairmanship elections were held today in 11 local government councils where no political party or group has a clear majority. Following today's round of elections, the ruling National People's Power controls 213 local authorities, while the main opposition Samagi Jana Balawege holds power in 32. Meanwhile, the first meeting of the Colombo Municipal Council, chaired by Colombo's new mayor, devolved into chaos as the opposition demanded the session be postponed due to the delay in issuing the agenda. The Colombo Municipal Council convened for the first time today since electing its new mayor. However, tensions arose when the opposition raised concern regarding the delay in issuing the agenda, which was supposed to be provided 4 days prior to today's meeting but was only provided yesterday. Accordingly, the opposition demanded today's session be postponed. Despite this, the meeting was adjourned for only 10 minutes before it resumed. In the meantime, chairmanship elections in 11 local government councils where no political party or group has a clear majority were carried out today under the patronage of respective local government commissioners. The National People's Power secured chairmanships at Bulat Sinhala Pradeshya Sabha, Hatton Dikkoya Urban Council, Tangol Urban Council and the Horana Pradeshya Sabha. Accordingly, the National People's Power currently holds power in 213 local government councils. In the meantime, the Samagi Jana Balawege has secured power in 32 local government councils, including the Ambagamuwa Pradeshya Sabha and Nivitigala Pradeshya Sabha. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramuna established power in 4 local government councils and the Ilanke Tamilarasu Katchi has established power in 21 councils. Concurrently, the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress holds power in 5 local government councils, while the Ceylon Workers' Congress has established power in 3. Other political parties hold power in 17 local government councils, while the establishment of 10 local councils has been delayed due to disagreements and court orders. The Asian Development Bank, the Japan International Cooperation Agency and the World Bank have written to Sri Lanka's Energy Minister regarding several key issues concerning the 2024 amendments to the Electricity Act recently published in the Government Gazette. The organisations warn these changes could undermine the overarching objectives of the Act and the commitments made by the government under the ADB's policy-based loan and the World Bank's development policy operation, while weakening the attractiveness of Sri Lanka for investors. According to the joint statement, the amendment to legislate permanent government ownership of several entities could increase the burden on the state, limit any private investment or opportunities in the generation company and distribution company, and hinder the government's options for development in a sector with large investment needs. The amendment to operate LTL Holdings and Sri Lanka Energies under the National Transmission Service Provider would create a generation company owning approximately 20% of Sri Lanka's generation assets, as well as multiple other businesses, and given the urgent need to upgrade the transmission network, bundling businesses outside the core function of the NTNSP will likely result in a deterioration in operations. By allowing the distribution company to assume the assets, liabilities and functions of LECO when LECO has been operating as an independent company from CEB distribution divisions and has adopted operational efficiencies and innovations for its customers and employees, it could return to a system of operational inefficiencies, conflicts of interest and poor governance, all at the cost of the consumer. Rephrasing the clause on the tariff regulator could pose challenges when trying to implement the Act, as the language is unclear and open to interpretation since there is ambiguity on who has final authority and accountability on tariff setting. Former Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwala and 11 others were indicted today over the importation of substandard medicines. Meanwhile, the former minister, his wife, 3 daughters and a son-in-law were indicted over the accumulation of illegal assets during his tenure as the Minister of Mass Media. Following 2 complaints received regarding 3 patients in Kandy, Matale and Colombo developing complications after receiving human immunoglobulin injections, the Criminal Investigation Department launched an investigation into the alleged importation of substandard medicine. Subsequently, 12 high-ranking health officials were named suspects in the case filed before the Maligakanda Magistrates Court, accusing them of purchasing a stock of substandard medicine by altering existing procurement procedures and fabricating a shortage of drugs amid the country's economic crisis in 2022. Chief among these suspects are then Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwala, former Secretary to the Health Ministry Janaka Chandragupta and the supplier of the substandard drugs Sudat Janaka Fernando. Indictments were served against the 12 suspects today before the Colombo High Court Special Trial at Bar, comprising Justices Mahen Veeraman, Amali Ranavira and Pradeep Aberatna. The indictment consists of 13 charges, including conspiracy to embezzle 14.44 million rupees of public funds by procuring 6,195 vials of non-medicinal substances and passing them off as human immunoglobulin and rituximab, a cancer medication. 348 witnesses have been named in the case, including former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. 10 suspects in the case, including former Health Minister Keheliya Rambukwala, were arrested and later released on bail. However, the first suspect, the supplier of the substandard drugs, remains under remand custody. Meanwhile, former Secretary to the Health Ministry Janaka Chandragupta was arrested by the Bribery Commission this morning after arriving at the Commission to record a statement over his alleged accumulation of illicit assets. He was remanded until the 8th of July after being produced before Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali. In a separate development, the Bribery Commission filed indictments against former Minister Rambukwala, his wife, 3 daughters and a son-in-law over the accumulation of illicit assets during his tenure as the Minister of Mass Media. The indictments filed before the Colombo High Court consists of 43 charges. The government has decided to import 40,000 metric tons of kiri samba and substitute rice due to the insufficient availability of local rice stocks and to meet the growing demand for kiri samba rice. According to the Presidential Media Division, this decision was made based on the recommendations of the Food Security and Cost of Living Committee, which convened at the Presidential Secretariat. Accordingly, approximately 5,000 metric tons of rice will be imported through state institutions, while the remainder will be brought in through private sector engagement based on market demand. Meanwhile, following discussions and an agreement reached with the Consumer Affairs Authority, the Salt Manufacturers Association of Sri Lanka has announced several measures to reduce salt prices in the consumer market. As a result, crystal salt will be sold at 180 rupees per kilogram, and table salt will be priced at 240 rupees per kilogram and 120 rupees per 120 grams. The Salt Manufacturers Association announced that it may take several days for packaged salt at these prices to be distributed island-wide, after which consumers will have the opportunity to purchase packaged salt at the new prices. Resident representative of the United Nations Development Programme in Sri Lanka, Azusa Kubota, reaffirmed the UNDP's support for the government of Sri Lanka in the development of the national media policy. She made these remarks speaking at the Sri Lanka Broadcasters Symposium 2025 held yesterday in Colombo. Also in attendance, Minister of Health and Mass Media Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa reiterated the government's commitment to driving transformative progress within the country's media sector.
The Sri Lanka Broadcasters Symposium 2025, jointly organised by the Ministry of Health and Mass Media, was held yesterday in Colombo. During the event, a special commemorative award was conferred upon pioneering Sri Lankan broadcaster Shan Wickramasinghe in recognition of his outstanding contributions to the advancement of the electronic media sector.
Media is not just a channel of information. It is a public good. It shapes national conversation, reflects public sentiment, and holds of the national media policy, working very closely with the ministry to ensure that the process is consultative and inclusive, with voices from across the country and the industry.
The topics explored today, digital disruption, commercial sustainability, media accountability, and regulatory reform, are at the heart of building a resilient, inclusive, and ethical broadcasting sector. We remain committed to enabling this transformation. The draft National Media Policy outlines our vision, a media environment that is pluralistic, independent, responsible, and future-ready. It seeks to establish an autonomous regulatory framework, strengthen public service broadcasting, support community media, and promote innovation, especially as we transition into AI-enhanced and digitally driven ecosystems. But regulation alone is not enough. We must foster a culture of professionalism and integrity. Shared standards, continuous capacity building, and investment in local content creation are essential. We must also empower our citizens through media literacy so they become not only informed audiences but critical participants in our democratic discourse.
In addition, veteran media professionals and experts from diverse fields participated in a series of interactive question and answer sessions, fostering dialogue on key issues within the industry.
How do you think there can be a balance between social responsibility as well as commercial viability? Can a media institution maintain both?
The media landscape and the competitive environment is just not limited to a certain geographical area. So it's in the air now. It's just a competition that you have to face, worldwide. So what are we competing for? We are competing for eyeballs. We are looking at, when I say commercial viability, we are looking at the revenue models. That's the complex issue. So advertisers don't just look at eyeballs alone. So eyeballs might give you reach, and it might even give you frequency, but does it give you impact? Depends. The impact depends on the credibility and so on and so forth.
Welcome back. Sri Lankan exports reached $6.9 billion during the first 5 months of this year. This reflects a 7.14% growth in export earnings compared to the first 5 months of last year. In May, total exports, including both merchandise and services, reached $1.38 billion, marking a year-on-year growth of 6.35% over May last year. In May this year, merchandise exports grew 1.7% year-on-year, reaching $1.028 billion according to provisional data of Sri Lanka Customs, including the estimates for gems and jewellery and petroleum products. For the period from January to May 2025, merchandise exports totaled $5.34 billion, reflecting 5.46% increase compared to the first 5 months of 2024. Meanwhile, services exports emerged as a key driver of overall export growth, with estimated earnings from services exports reaching $358.14 million during the month of May. Services exports over the first 5 months of the year are estimated to have increased by 13.2%, totaling $1.58 billion. That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.